Bonjour, Kinagoya. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the information session on the Foundations of Indigenous Learning Diploma program here at Trent University. My name is James Miller. I'm the Indigenous Enrollment Advisor for First Peoples House of Learning at Trent University. And so today I will take you through an outline of the Foundations of Indigenous Learning Diploma and explain the additional supports that are offered with that program, as well as the programs that the Foundations Diploma streams into. And so if you give me a moment, I will just be bringing up my PowerPoint presentation here, and we will go through the slides together. And then we'll have a brief period of time at the end for any questions that you may have. Alrighty, everyone. So the Foundations of Indigenous Learning Diploma program. For eligibility for admittance into the program, students must be of Indigenous ancestry. Currently, the program is a 2-year program. It's transitioning to 1 year in 2022, fall 2022, but that's pending senatorial approval at Trent. Upon successful completion, students are awarded a diploma. And all successfully completed courses do receive university credits. So what that means is that any courses that you're taking in the diploma program already count towards your bachelor's degree. So if you're choosing to continue after you finish your 2-year diploma into a degree program, all of those courses will be applied towards that degree. So for example, if you were streaming into the Indigenous Bachelor of Education or the BEd program, all of your courses in FOIL would be geared towards you obtaining credits for those first 2 years of that BEd program. Same thing for Indigenous Studies. If you were streaming into Indigenous Studies, whether that's a BA or a BA with honors, all of your courses would be designed to feed into that particular stream. And again, with Indigenous Environmental Studies and Sciences, whether it's the Bachelor of Arts or the BSc program, same thing applies. Same thing with nursing. Alrighty, and as related, those are the 4 programs that the Indigenous Learning Diploma streams into. So again, that's Indigenous BEd, Indigenous Studies, Indigenous Environmental Studies and Sciences, or nursing. And so as part of the FOIL program, students are required to complete 8 credits, including 6 Indig credits. There are some second-year Indigenous Studies courses that are available to students in year 1 of the diploma, and certain prerequisites are required. So in year 1 of the diploma program, as it's currently structured, you'll be enrolled in Indig 1001, Indig 1002, and those are primarily courses that outline the history of colonization in Canada. So Indig 1001, Foundations for Reconciliation, talks about the history of colonialism going back for the past 500 years, beginning with contacts in Canada, so around the 1500s, right up to present day, taking you through the history of residential schools, and some other kind of difficult subjects that are kind of related. Now, 1002, one of the beautiful things about that is that course outlines Indigenous resurgence. So Indigenous reactions to colonialism, how we've come to reclaim our cultures, how we've come to reclaim our languages, how we've come to reclaim different aspects of ourselves that have been under threat or under pressure from colonialism. 2 courses that are completely unique to the FOIL program, so you'll only be enrolled in these with other FOIL students, are Indig 1001, which is Foundations of Indigenous Learning Writing, and Indig 1011, which is Foundations of Indigenous Learning Writing, and Indig 1012, which is Foundations of Indigenous Learning Research. And what those courses are is they take you through that whole process of learning how to write effectively at a university level, and then learning how to research effectively at a university level. So for myself, when I began my undergraduate degree program, I was enrolled in the FOIL program, and I found those 2 courses to be of immense use. So for me, I hadn't written an essay since I was about 16. I came into the program at 32. And that course took me through the whole process of how to structure an essay properly, how to cite everything properly, how to properly format an essay. So there's particular formats that you need to use in university, all of that stuff. It was really great. I found that information useful right up until my current year studies. So it's still stuff that provides use for me today. Foundations research is incredibly useful too, because as you know, at Trent University, we have a state-of-the-art library, BATA library. And so if we think about BATA library, we think about all the information that's stored in there. How do we navigate it? How do we access it? Well, the Foundations Research Program talks about that. And unique to the Foundations Research course, it also explains how to properly cite and research oral sources, which is really important for us as Indigenous people, if we're reconnecting to culture, or if we're taking some of that traditional knowledge that each of us carry or have access to in our communities forward through to academic pursuits. So how do we cite those amazing conversations that we have with elders, those amazing teachings that we receive? How do we cite those into academic papers? So in addition to the foundations courses, the 10, 11, and 10, 12, you're also required to take one Indig Studies credit. So we have a huge amount of options to explore at Trent University within the Indigenous Studies department. So perhaps you're passionate about performance. So we have some Indigenous performance courses you could take. Perhaps you're curious about some plant or medicinal knowledge. So you want to take an IESS course, that's Indigenous Environmental Studies and Sciences. Perhaps you're interested in the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada. You want to explore more about your nation's history. You want to learn about some other Indigenous nations and their histories. There's a lot of courses within Indigenous studies that do that. If you're curious about some more traditional knowledge, an amazing course to take is the Introduction to Indigenous Knowledge course, which is INDG 2100, taught by wonderful Professor Skahandone Swamp, who carries a tremendous amount of traditional Haudenosaunee knowledge. And there's also some Anishinaabeg knowledges that are explored in there as well. In year 2 of your diploma program, you're going to take 3.0 Indigenous credits. So you got the options kind of opening up to you more. We have academic advisors that can help you figure out which courses you want to take within those choices. And you're going to take those 3 Indigenous credits at the 2nd or 3rd year level. So there's a wide range of things to choose from. Options that include Indigenous Orality, which is a 3rd year course, along with some courses that are related to particular specialties that you may be exploring at that time. So for example, if you're going into the Indigenous Environmental Studies and Sciences courses, then you might be taking a course related to Indigenous food systems. If you're in the Indigenous Bachelor of Education stream, you might be taking some courses related to Indigenous curriculum design. How do we design experiential learning programs for students off of the land? If you're in the Indigenous Studies program, you might choose to go towards something like Indigenous fictions or Indigenous poetry. How do we explore these Indigenous ideas as authors? So lots of different options there. Aside from those 3.0 Indig credits, you have 1 credit in addition to the above. You can either take it at the Indigenous Studies 2nd or 3rd year level, or you can take it in another discipline at the 1000 level. So that can come into handy if you're looking to go into nursing, for example, and you want to take some science courses. We have some really tremendous courses in both math and sciences for people who maybe stopped taking math and sciences in grade 10 or grade 11, right? And they're looking to get into the maths and sciences at a university level. So that can be quite useful. And as I mentioned, all of the successfully completed courses in this program count towards receiving university credit. And if you're choosing to continue towards the degree program, again, all of the courses completed in FOIL do count towards that degree. So as part of the additional supports that we offer for the Foundations of Indigenous Learning Diploma program, we offer supports that we call Nadamagewan, which in Anishinaabemowin means the art of helping. And these Nadamagewan supports are offered through First Peoples House of Learning. And so I'll explain what First Peoples House of Learning is in a moment. So the academic supports that we offer for FOIL students include tutoring and student accessibility services. So student accessibility services is for those students who may come in with an IEP from high school who have different learning styles than the majority of students. Perhaps I know for myself, I get a little ADD-ish. So for me, when I'm taking exams, it helps for me to access student accessibility services where they can provide me with room that allows me to focus more effectively. Some financial supports that we offer in the Foundations of Indigenous Learning Diploma program include scholarships, bursaries, grants, and awards. So scholarships and bursaries and grants and awards, none of those have to be repaid. So we're talking about, some additional finances that may help you access things like computers. They may help you access things like different office supplies. They could be awards for performance. So let's say you take an Anishinaabemowin course and you're learning that Indigenous language, reconnecting with Indigenous language, you're getting really high marks, you might qualify for a language award. We have lots of financial supports available at Trent. So for those of you who maybe your band funding only covers a portion of the expenses related to school, that can be a huge way to break down that financial barrier, that access barrier. Now, another really lovely support that we offer is called Ishkodewin, Lighting the Fire Inside, and that's a peer support program. And that peer support program is also offered through First Peoples House of Learning. And again, First People's House of Learning is Indigenous student support services here at Trent, and I will go into detail more with our services in a moment. So that Ishkodewin program, it pairs up incoming students. So when you're in your first year of the Foundations program, you get paired up with upper year students, and you are then given opportunities to connect with those upper year students, and they can offer you advice on how to navigate certain courses, provide you with some study tips, different things like that. Lots of supports are available there. Now, at First People's House as well, we offer cultural supports. So school can sometimes be stressful, right? So we have mental health counseling, and our mental health counselors at First People's House are culturally informed. So they're Indigenous mental health counselors. They're trained both in Western social work, and then they also carry traditional knowledges from the nations that they belong to. So in our case, we have Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, and Cree counselors as well. In addition to our mental health counseling supports, we also offer cultural supports to all of our FOIL students. So those cultural supports include our medicine garden and our firekeeping program. Now, our firekeeping program is a really lovely way, kind of similar to our peer mentorship program, that allows students to connect with their peers. And so at Trent University, we have a traditional area called Minidoog Akiing. The virtual background that I have behind me is the teepee that stands in Minidoog Akiing. And our firekeeping program is responsible for maintaining that area. So the firekeeper program is volunteer. We do hire 2 head firekeepers each year. And essentially we hold social fires every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And allows a space for Indigenous students to gather. So for me, in my undergraduate years, I would go there every Tuesday and Thursday whenever I didn't have class, connect with other Indigenous students. And again, similar to the peer mentorship program, I would talk to them about different courses that I was engaged in. I would talk about some study tips, and another bonus too. There's lots of visiting elders that will come and share their knowledge around those fires. So for me, when I was engaged in different courses of study for my Indigenous knowledge course, I would talk to those elders that were visiting, and I would end up citing the information that they provided into my academic papers. So it was not only an opportunity for me to connect socially, but it was also an opportunity for me to do research. It was an opportunity for me to learn academically as far as how to function well in school. So again, it was a real huge foundational component to my success as a student. All right, so First People's House of Learning. So we have all these lovely wraparound supports for our FOIL students. So First People's House of Learning, we are essentially Indigenous student support services here at Trent University. We also provide cultural awareness training to other departments at Trent. What I'm going to focus on today is explaining our supports for students. So as I mentioned, we have some of those student success supports that I touched on, including tutoring and student accessibility. But before we even get to that, when you're coming into Trent, when you're applying to Trent, we have an Indigenous recruitment, enrollment, and admissions department, and that's me, the guy who's talking today. So you're welcome to reach out to us, FPHL enrollment at trentu.ca. And we provide outreach to schools and communities. We support Indigenous students all throughout the admissions and enrollment process. And it's done in a culturally informed way, right? So whether you're from a fly-in community that's way up north, or whether you're an urban Indigenous person, we can make sure that your connection to culture and that your cultural knowledge is respected throughout that process. As I related, in addition to the academic supports, we provide financial supports, mentorship. And another thing I wanted to touch on as part of our student success department is our lunch and learns. So at FPHL, we always like to feed students. We don't want you guys living just off a craft dinner and hot dogs. So we organize a number of events throughout the year at our Indigenous spaces on campus for you to engage with both some academic supports, some advice from different departments. So some of the advice that we offer at those lunch and learns include budgeting workshops, study skills workshops, time management workshops, and stress management workshops. And all that goes along with a traditional Indigenous meal. So we'll offer some Indian tacos. Sometimes we'll have venison stew and other things of that nature. So again, I outlined some of our cultural supports at First People's House. So as related before, we do have that traditional area, Minidoog Akiing. We offer culturally informed mental health counseling there. We offer cultural programming and workshops. So we have some beading workshops, traditional knowledge workshops, and those are similar to our lunch and learns, right? But they take more of a cultural approach. So for example, you can go and join one of our beading sessions over lunch, have a snack, bead a little medallion, learn how to bead if you've never beaded before, right? You can make a ribbon skirt. Sometimes we have ribbon skirt workshops. We also offer visiting elders and traditional knowledge holders and residents. So that means elders come to campus and they visit us for a week, and they'll come and they'll do some guest lectures at Indigenous studies courses, but they'll also spend time at these lunch and learns with Indigenous students, and as I related before, at our fires as well. We also offer annually the Indigenous Elders and Traditional Peoples Gathering. So that takes place over a weekend, usually in early February. Ours just passed. We have a hybrid model, so you can attend in person or attend via Zoom. And that's a tremendous opportunity to gather a lot of Indigenous knowledge. So it can be really useful as an undergraduate student. It'd be a great place to build relationships with elders to help you in your research. They provide you with incredible guidance and mentorship, and they're really lovely workshops that take place over the weekend exploring different aspects of Indigenous knowledge. We also have different cultural initiatives on campus that we love students to be a part of. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is translating all of our signs on campus to be bilingual in Anishinaabe and English. So we're working on indigenizing the campus that way. We always love student ideas and student feedback too. If there's any workshops that you want to be offered, anything like that, any way that we can promote Indigenous cultural visibility on campus. We do our best to do that at First Peoples House. So the foundations of Indigenous learning, what are the admission requirements? Well, basically, the admission requirements is just meeting us for an intake interview. So again, you can email us at fphlenrollment@trentu.ca. You can also email us at admissions@trentu.ca. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to connect with either myself, again, my name is James, or you're going to connect with our director, Dr. Don Laval Harvard, and you'll have a quick intake interview. And what that interview takes place, what takes place during that interview is just kind of a quick assessment. So it's basically to make sure that you are equipped for success at universities. So the idea is to qualify for admittance, you have grade 12 or equivalent. And I'd like to stress that or equivalent. So for myself, when I came into Trent University, I dropped out of high school in grade 10. I ended up going back and getting my equivalency in my early 20s. So I did have the equivalent of grade 12. We've also had students who achieve great success at the university who may not even have any sort of equivalency on paper, but they can read and write and function at a grade 12 level. And really that's all that matters. Again, we have those tutoring supports and we have those additional cultural supports, counseling supports, all of that stuff to ensure that your time in the foundations program is a success. You can also qualify if you're a mature student. So as I related, I dropped out of school at 16, I came back at 32. I was definitely older than a lot of the other students here at Trent University. We've had FOIL students come in their 50s and even their 60s, and they do quite well. So the FOIL program's open to Indigenous people of all ages. You can also qualify, of course, if you do have a high school diploma, but perhaps your high school diploma is geared towards the college stream, right? So maybe you didn't take those university level courses. Maybe you took those college level courses. That's okay. You're more than welcome to be part of FOIL. And throughout the process of your FOIL studies in that year 1 and year 2, you get all of those foundational learning requirements fulfilled for universities. So you're going to set yourself up for success. A lot of our FOIL graduates go on to do their masters and they go on to do their PhDs. So it's just a matter of getting you into the program, and we will work with you in any way, shape, or form that we can to make sure that you can get into our program. So again, the 3 different options that are listed here for the application process, you can email admissions@trentu.ca and write Foundations of Indigenous Learning in the subject line. You can use Trent's direct application form. You can also access that by contacting, again, admissions or contacting myself at fphlenrollment@trentu.ca. And then the third option, again, just to reiterate, is contacting FPHL enrollment. So again, that email is up there on the screen. And again, write Foundations of Indigenous Learning in the subject line. Now, once you email us, what will happen is I will get back to you and I will schedule a Zoom interview. We will have a quick chat, kind of figure out your academic background, talk about some of your academic goals, and go from there. Plan out your degree and connect you with those supports to make sure that you not only survive, but you thrive when you come to Trent University. Thank you so much for your time. At this point, I will stop my sharing. And if there are any questions from the audience, I will open up to them now. Miigwech. And it doesn't look like we have any questions today. So in that case, I will say miigwech to all of you who attended, and thank you for your time. And we'll wrap it up for now. Thank you so much. Take care.